Hi, I'm Ross, and welcome to Teacher's Perspective. Thank you very much for joining me here on this webinar. Let's take a little look at what it is you're going to be learning today. Now, over the next 60 minutes, I'm going to be revealing to you a discovery that I made that has helped hundreds of children aged 8 to 9 become confident and capable mathematicians. Now, every single one of these children that took part in the system that I've started using, all of them struggled with math before. And not just struggled, they were basically failing in it. And the parents, they were all feeling a real sense of guilt, parental guilt, that their child just isn't at the level they need to be. And a lot of parents just don't know how to help. So today I'm going to show you exactly what it is that your child is struggling with, why they're falling behind in math, and what it is that they need to do in order to become much better, to finally be excited about math, participate in class, and all those things that you really want for your child. I'm going to show you exactly how to get it. Now, just some examples that we're going to come across. You're going to learn about a child called Adam, and he was actually scoring 8% in his assessments before he started this system that I'm showing you today. And after this system, only 57 days later, he got 100% in both of his end of year assessments. Huge changes to his confidence and his ability. And it's a similar story about Christopher, who I'll tell you about a little later on. He was placed in the wrong year group. He was supposed to be with 8 to 9 year olds. No, other way around. He was supposed to be with 7 to 8 year olds, but ended up getting put in a year group with 8 to 9 year olds. So obviously the work was very difficult for him. But by going through the system that I'm going to show you today, he actually ended up ranking in the top 10% of children aged 8 to 9, even though that work was technically too hard for him. Now, that happened in about 3 months, but I'm going to show you something today that can happen even faster. And in fact, I'm going to show you a system that is going to allow your child to master math and become truly an independent learner in just 30 days. A little bit about me. I've been working in schools for over a decade. And in the last 5 years, I've really started to focus on math, specifically for children aged 8 to 9. This is a crucial point in their development. And I've really started to focus on what it is that gets children either understanding math or falling behind so that we can help them catch up. I myself struggled in math a lot when I was younger. I was very fortunate that my father was able to support me in this. But knowing what I know now, he did it the hard way. And what I'm going to show you today is so much easier. There really is just one thing your child needs to focus on. And I know that that might sound overly simple, but that's because it is. Teachers far often than not, they overcomplicate maths, and that just makes things so much more difficult for children. And the system that I'm going to show you looks so simple, but that's the power of it. That's why children are able to access it. And before I go any further, I just want to take a moment because I'm already throwing lots of information at you, just to acknowledge the fact that your child is struggling, but it's not your fault, and it's not their fault either. Quite often parents haven't heard this, which is why they're feeling that guilt. They're feeling that they have somehow caused or allowed their child to get into this situation. But truly, it's not your fault, and it's not your child's fault either. I've been in schools for over a decade, and things haven't changed. Children have struggled throughout this time, and they've continued to struggle. I've spoken to teachers who have been teaching longer than I've been alive, and they say the same thing. They say, oh, well, it's always been this way. There's always some children that struggle and some children that do well, but nobody seems to do anything about it. They always bring in a new initiative or a new way of teaching, a new way of learning something, but it never actually makes an impact. They don't really seem to want to try and find what the root cause is. And your child is not alone in this. If your child is below the expected standard, if they are working below or they're falling behind in math, just know that in the UK, where I grew up, 44% of children are below in math. 44%. That means that nearly half of the children in the classroom aren't at the average of where they should be. And in the US is slightly better, but still not that great. 38% of children are below the standard for the age group, especially around the ages of 8 to 9. And not to scare you, but just to really put it into perspective, all the data shows that if a child is struggling in math at age 10 and they are below the standard, they almost never catch up. And that's a problem for the future because almost all university degrees and literally every job has some form of basic math as a requirement just to get people in. And if you just leave your child's math ability up to chance, that's not going to work out well. Okay, you need to take control of this now and help your child make that progress because it's not going to come from school. Now, just to really illustrate this, but also to show you exactly what it is that your child needs to change or needs to be changed for your child, I'm going to tell you a story. And this is a story about Elgin, and he really is the kid that changed it all. And in the story, you're going to find out the exact reason why your child is struggling in math and exactly what needs to be done about it. So, Elgin was in my class about 3 years, no, it was exactly 3 years ago, actually. And at the very start of the school year, he came in and it's terrible to say this about a child, but he looked rough. He had big bags under his eyes, his shoulders were slumped, and he practically dragged himself into the classroom. I was like, "Morning, Elgin." And he just gave me a grumble. So I thought, okay, maybe one child to watch out for. But then I met his mum, Carla. And bear in mind, this is the first meeting I've had with her. She says, "Oh, so I'm Elgin's mum. Elgin isn't really a math kid. He really finds it hard. He was worried about coming back to school today, so he didn't sleep very well last night. Math really just isn't a strong point for him." And as far as first impressions go, this wasn't the best, but I could understand. Carla had been through years of teachers just telling her that he was struggling, seeing reports that were showing he was below the standard, seeing test scores that confirmed to her that Elgin was behind and that the other children in the class were doing better and that this was a problem. She was done. She was really worn out trying to help him. But if you do go to speak to your child's teacher, please don't introduce them like that. Give them a little bit more time. But anyway, I'm not going to make Carla seem like a bad mum because she really isn't. You'll find out later in the story, she tried so much to try and help him make progress. So anyway, we did the assessment at the start of the year and Elgin scored 5%. It was the bottom of the class, and I showed it to Carla, his mum, and she was disappointed, but obviously not surprised. And she actually said something to me about his math struggles that really stuck. She said, "It's like a storm on the horizon." Because what she meant is that she knew he was struggling, she knew he was behind, but what she could do was just take him to the cinema, go and take him to soccer practice, and do all these other things with him, like reading. He was good at reading and kind of just ignore the fact that whenever you put a math paper in front of him, he had a tantrum and started crying. Just trying to ignore the fact that every school report said he was behind. To try and ignore the fact that he was starting to see himself as not a math person. And she could distract herself from it, but she knew it was there. And she knew at some point in the future, this was going to be something that would cause real problems. And she's right. I already explained that if children don't catch up by age 10, they basically never do. So, in school, we were trying everything teachers normally try with interventions. So, the 2 times a week, Elgin would go with the teaching assistant and try and practice some little bits of math. And we would get some practical resources for him to try and count things along and, actually manipulate things in front of him to try and help him understand what we're doing. And then also lots of different worksheets, but nothing was working. And then, how do I put it? It was a bit of a bombshell when I then talked to Carla, his mum, and she said, "Oh, yeah, no, we've also got a tutor and we're paying him $60 an hour. He comes 2 times a week, and this has been happening for 3 months." And now there are some great tutors out there. $60 is about what you would expect A lot of tutors charge between 40 and $100 per hour. I personally charge more. And it's great. There are some really useful tutors who can help your child progress. But this guy that was working with Elgin, he was just telling Carla what she wanted to hear. Oh yeah, we practiced this. He did really well. We tried this, and he started to make progress. But it wasn't true. I wasn't seeing any of that in class. But I couldn't say that to Carla. I couldn't say, this is a bit of a waste of money because I didn't want that as something else on her shoulders, something else that she was then considering like, oh, she finally felt as though she was making progress or she was doing something to help Elgin. And I didn't want to tell her that this actually wasn't working either. So then, this is the moment. So really pay attention here. I was taking all the data from the children's tests and I was putting it into this enormous Excel spreadsheet. It's created by the data leader from our school, and all of the data on there is hundreds and hundreds of children. So I was putting in their arithmetic scores and their reasoning and problem solving scores, and I I accidentally clicked on the sort button. So it sorted them by arithmetic scores instead of by their names, which was the alphabetical order that I wanted them to be sorted by. In case you don't know, by the way, arithmetic, that's the four operations. So it's one of the two areas that we test children on. Arithmetic being adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing. And then reasoning and problem solving, the other thing that we teach children and we assess them on, that's the application of skills. So when you see a word problem that is, Jeff goes to the store and buys 15 pineapples. He eats six of them. How many does he have left? That sort of real world thinking, that's reasoning and problem solving. Now, a lot of teachers, and I've been guilty of doing this myself, they go, oh, well, reasoning's harder. And it's harder because the smart children are able to do well in it. But because I clicked this sorting button and it sorted all the arithmetic scores from top to bottom, I saw this correlation between the arithmetic scores and the reasoning and problem solving scores. Now, I don't know who was doing the data analysis for our school at the time, because surely it can't have been the data leader. He was a really smart guy, and I know that he was good at what he did, but how this was never looked at before baffles me. And I really think a little bit of what I said earlier on, teachers like to overcomplicate things, and this is certainly a prime example of that. So the correlation between arithmetic scores and reasoning scores was perfect. The chances of that being perfect are slim to none, but without there being a causation, right? And the fact that I could see children with high reasoning scores also had high arithmetic scores or were maxed out on arithmetic, that just immediately showed me you only get good reasoning scores because you've got the foundation, you've got arithmetic. So I decided to try and put this into action. If Elgin could master arithmetic, then maybe he can make progress in the rest of math. Now, this is because try and imagine like a pyramid. The very bottom is the arithmetic, and then you stack all the other parts on top until you get to the reasoning and problem solving. Now, underneath, what we've been trying was, oh, start by teaching reasoning and problem solving, when that's not how a pyramid is built. That's not how it works. You can't start with a teaching point that's way ahead of where the children are just now. So what I did was I took all of the arithmetic papers from the previous, I think it was about 4 years, and I looked at what do children aged 8 to 9 have to be able to do. And I broke it down and identified 15 core skills. This was a mixture of addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. And started thinking, well, how can I teach each of these? If Elgin can do these 15 core skills, then he'll be able to do arithmetic. And at first, he started to make a little bit of progress, but I could tell that there was something still a little bit off. And what I did was I then looked at the 15 skills again and thought, hang on a minute. Some of these literally lead on from the other. You can't start adding 10 until you've learned how to add 1. You can't multiply by a one-digit number until you've learned how to, sorry, you can't multiply by a two-digit number until you've learned how to multiply it by a one-digit number, and so on. So there was a very clear progression with these 15 core skills. Once I then put those in order, I started working with Elgin for 15 minutes a day. And almost immediately, the progress was there. And he could see how things were getting better. He could feel more confident about math. Now, the assessment came. He was quietly confident about the assessment. I was nervous because this was my moment to test. Did this really work? And bear in mind, he had 5% before. He went up to 78%. Now, it's not perfect, but I'm sure you can see the dramatic progress that he's made. He ran out of the classroom at the end of the day and he was holding the test paper and he was waving it in front of his mum. Carla started crying and it was a whole big thing. So that then just showed me, I was like, wow, this really works. Now that he can do arithmetic, he can understand all of math. And the craziest part about this, the craziest part is that it was 15 minutes a day. And the time between his baseline assessment and the 78% was 27 days. That's 5 weeks of school, just over. And that was the difference that was made just by making this one change, focusing on arithmetic. From there, other parents started asking for my time. They wanted me to come and work with their child one-on-one. And there were certain policies around that I couldn't go to all the different children. But I was also working with other children from different schools doing the same sort of thing. And it was making amazing progress. And so one of them just asked me, was like, could you make me a quick video and I'll show it to my child so they can start practicing? I was like, okay, yeah, sure. And then they said, this is great. They loved it. They really enjoyed watching you. They said it feels like there's a teacher in the room and they liked that they were getting all the attention. It was just me and the child speaking with each other, helping them get along. And from there, I started making more videos and more videos and more videos. And I created the Arithmetic Mastery program. So Arithmetic Mastery has now been used by hundreds of children. And I've refined it over time to also have assessments, progress tracking, stories, and just fun activities to really keep them engaged. They say part of teaching is acting. You are doing a performance. So I know at least how to keep the children engaged, and it really does work. All children need to go through this system as well, is the videos within the course, and then something to write with and something to write on, whiteboard and pen, pencil and paper, whatever it may be. And really, this is the main point, that now that you understand, all your child needs to do is master arithmetic. The reasoning and problem solving is tricky, but it's impossible if they don't know arithmetic. So focus on that first. Give them that foundation so then they can build upon it. There's nothing wrong with your child. They're just missing that foundation that the other children have already understood. So even children who are very, very far behind have made massive progress using this. And here's what it looks like, just so you can really picture it. It's 91 lessons. And you can see just down the side here, there's all the different modules. So add and subtract numbers, add and subtract 1000, add and subtract three-digit numbers, times tables, multiply two-digit by one-digit, and so on and so on and so on. So this is the order, this is the structure that I've tested in all sorts of different ways, and this is the one that works. Now, it's specifically for children aged 8 to 9. Many other children have done this before, and it really, really works. So there's Adam, there's Christopher, and Casey, who I will explain a little bit more about in a moment. But let me just show you a little preview from the course, just to give you a better idea of it.
Okay, this one is by far the best method we've looked at. That's why I saved it till last. The other two methods we looked at are perfectly fine and they're really good. This one, this is what separates the men from the boys, the women from the girls, the cats from the dogs, the dishwashers from the sinks, the cows from the... I can't think of any others, but you get the point. Grab something to write with and something to write on. Let's get started. Okay, now it's time for the formal written method with multiplication. We're going to start with something like 25 and multiplying it by 3. To do this in the formal written method, I want you to watch very closely. 25 multiplied by 3, and then draw 2 lines. First of all, we take this number and multiply it by 3. So 5 times 3 is 15. So what I'm going to do is put the 5 here and put the 1 underneath. The 5, the 1. Then I'm going to do 2 times 3. 2 times 3 is 6. 6. Add 1 is 7. So 75 is my answer. Next one, I want you to copy exactly as I do. 38 multiplied by 6. So copy this one down. You'll put 38 here, multiplied by 6, and draw.
Okay, so the main thing to really take on there is that this follows the watch, copy, practice formula. So children first watch me do the question. I then ask them to copy exactly as I do, so they have an example in front of them, and then they practice. As soon as they practice it, I then go through the answer in the video. And this quick reinforcement is what allows them just to get lots and lots of repetitions in and nail the skill. Each of the, each of the little modules actually breaks down the skill as well. So it's not just jumping straight into writing it all out. Before that, we actually teach the intricacies of how to set it up, what numbers you're multiplying by each other, and so on, just to make it as clear and as simple for children as we possibly can. Now, if you're thinking your child is too far behind, that's literally what this system is for. You already heard about Elgin. And really, it's because the children that are racing ahead in class, they don't need that same support of the foundations because they've already grasped that. School has worked for them. It doesn't work for all children. You already saw that in the statistics of the 44% in the UK and the 38% in the US, that some children just don't grasp it the way that schools are teaching it. So it needs to be done at home. But Adam's story is the perfect example of what if your child is too far behind. He had 8% in his exams. That's very, very low, in case you couldn't tell. And he really hated math because he found it so hard. He just hated it because it just constantly made him feel like he was failing. And he would even cry with frustration. But he was one of the children that when he started Arithmetic Mastery 2.0, suddenly he felt like he was getting the attention. And it was just the teacher and him. And he was able to get really, really involved in each of the sessions. So it was difficult still, but he was getting that one-to-one time that he really needed. And his confidence grew with every lesson. So by the end of it, he ended up making 100% in his last 2 exams of the school year. And again, that was 57 days it took for him to make that progress. Now, if your child hates working at home, most children do. That's just the way it is. They don't enjoy being at home doing work. There's plenty of other things that they would rather be doing. But it's not actually the work they hate. It's they hate how it makes them feel. Okay. And when children are struggling, finding something hard and doing something and getting it wrong, that's just like a real hit to their soul. It just makes them feel like I can't do this. This is impossible. And it changes their framework. So Christopher, he was totally overwhelmed. He was actually the child that was placed in the wrong year group by admissions. It's it's scary to think how often this happens, that admissions can mess this up. Every school I've been in has had a similar issue like this. So we're talking about thousands and thousands of children who are just being mismanaged by the school system, which is awful. But back to Chris's story. He was placed in the wrong year group. So obviously the work was extremely difficult. He was supposed to be doing work for children aged 7 to 8, but he was being asked to do work for children aged 8 to 9. So his mum got him enrolled in Arithmetic Mastery 2.0, and immediately he really started making the progress. He went through the entire system in just 3 months, and by the end of it, he was in the top 10% of his age group. It really unlocked something for him, is what I'm trying to say. That He seemed as though he was a child that was struggling, but it was just because he didn't have those foundational understandings that others may have. As soon as he grasped that, he started flying through the work. Now, let's quickly talk about independence and confidence. This is something that bothers a lot of parents because they think my child isn't going to sit at home and do this. They're not just going to sit and be able to work independently. I don't have the time to come and sit with them. And that's not something to feel bad about. I've already said this is not your fault. School should be dealing with this, but they're not. So you need to find something else to solve it. But if you can't sit with your child, they can work independently. I've seen children who are normally getting peeled off the walls. They're so overexcited and overstimulated. Come and actually sit down. And it's so simple because all you need to do is give them work that is slightly above their challenge, sorry, slightly above their ability, and just enough of a challenge that they can access it and eventually get it. It engages their brain. You see this a lot with children learning musical instruments as well, that when they get to that moment that they can start to experiment and they can start to try new things, they're engaging their full brain, and that's what allows them to work independently. And this is actually backed up by theory. So ZPD theory is the zone of proximal development by Lev Vygotsky, a Russian theorist from the 1930s, I believe. I'll have to go and check my studies on that one. We learn about it at university, and teachers know this, but a lot of them don't actually apply it because the ZPD theory says that you need to have a more intelligent or more capable helper. So, whether that's a teacher or a parent to help children make that progress. But you can actually do that just by giving them slightly more challenge than what they're currently capable to do, which is what the zone of which is what Arithmetic Mastery 2.0 really does. And once you start pushing that boulder up the hill, that confidence boulder, and it starts coming down the other side, that's what really keeps them going. It snowballs and helps them build that confidence. So the Casey story is one of the great examples of that. She was so low on confidence, and every single time she made a mistake, she just felt like she was failing. And for her, that was so hurtful. Every single time she got a piece of work, it was a struggle for her to just even get started because she thought, well, if I don't try, then I can't fail. And that's exactly the problem that she had. So what we did was with Arithmetic Mastery 2.0, the steps are so tiny that it felt accessible and they were little achievable tasks. Some of them were literally just copy this, copy what I've done, and then we'll talk through it together. Now, she could do that. So she started accessing that and then making meaningful progress and stressing about things less because it felt like a real win for her. Now, so the 91 lessons within Arithmetic Mastery 2.0, I've done this within classrooms. It's the exact same teaching methods that I had in class, and it's been working in homes for literally hundreds of children at this point. And it's specifically designed for children aged 8 to 9. And it produces amazing results with just the course alone. But today, I want to make you an offer so that you can really get your child on the right track and help them start moving towards that understanding in math. Because all they need to do is master arithmetic. Once they have that, they're able to access everything else. They're able to participate in class. And you can start to feel like you've really done something, like you've really put them on that path to making that progress. So, the course itself is $997. But on top of that, to make sure you don't have any other questions and to make sure you fully understand where your child needs to go with this, I'm also including a parent call that is $497. That's my time one-on-one with you, talking through everything your child has struggled with before and helping you just really get to grips with what it is your child has struggled with and what they need to do next. I'm giving you a behavior guide as well, because outside of working on maths, sometimes you just need that little bit of help from a teacher. We can manage classrooms like with a magic wand sometimes, it seems. And I've included all of my strategies within there. That's $297. You get all of my assessments and trackers that your child can use independently and you can keep up with as well to see exactly how they're getting on. And that's another $497. You will have full lifetime access to our parent community of all the other parents going through Arithmetic Mastery 2.0. I'm in there all the time, explaining things, answering questions, getting feedback, giving feedback. So during the Arithmetic Mastery program as well, your child can literally write a message to me, or you can write a message to me and say, oh, I was struggling with this part, please could you help me out? Or a little bit more confirmation on this, please, and I can get back to you. That's another $497. Weekly challenges coming out by email and in the community. Real prizes up for grabs, whether it's sessions with me or workbooks for the children. This is something to really help them get engaged and get them involved so that they feel as though they're part of something bigger. A parent guide for you, just to find out so much more about how math actually works. And if you do want to take this on yourself and do a little bit more practice with your child or have a better understanding of what it is that we do, that guide is for you. And that's another $197 plus three other amazing bonuses. My Teacher Truths guide, which will, so I've actually got a copy of it right here. Teacher Truths guide, which parents will find out a lot about what teachers are actually getting up to in school. Some teachers will probably despise me for letting you know, but it also helps you understand how the school works as a whole and what your child's curriculum journey really looks like. As well as that, there's a magic math book so your child can learn some tricks and illusions just to see the fun side of math, and one of my ultimate place value workbooks. And that is something a little bit outside of arithmetic, but does help your child start to think a little bit more critically about numbers and problems in general, which is another $204. So altogether, the total value of what I'm offering today is $3,482. But you're not going to pay anywhere close to that today. If you click the link that's now inside the chat log just here, you'll be able to get everything that I've just mentioned there. The course, the one-to-one call, the parent guide, the behavior guide, the assessment trackers, the weekly challenges, the parent community, the magic ebook for your child to help them become a math magician, all of those things together for just $997. To get those results of real measurable progress for your child. And not to make it sound too scary, but obviously I've already mentioned by age 10, children find it in way more harder to catch up. And every day that you don't take action on this, your child is falling further behind. But in case you're feeling really unsure, I've included in here a 60-day money-back guarantee, which means there's really no risk for your child even trying this. I've told you about Elgin and the other children who have made progress with Christopher, who took it just 3 months to make the amazing progress that he did. Adam, in 57 days, made that progress. Elgin, 27 days, made that progress. And I know from all the testing that I've done, most children can make tremendous progress within 30 days. But if you can complete every lesson with your child, or allow them to do it independently, 60 lessons in 60 days, you get a money back guarantee. And if you don't see the progress, you just let me know and I'm giving you it back. And you get to keep all the bonuses as well. But I have an extra offer today for anyone willing to take that action and really give that progress to their child. The first 10 people to buy today will also get the preliminary assessment, which is the very first session on the Arithmetic Mastery program, delivered live by me. This is something that I normally charge $200 for, but I'm giving it away to the first 10 people who buy today, which means I will sit with your child on video call and we will go through the preliminary assessment together. All the children that I've done this with have gone on to complete the course in the fullest and make the most progress out of everyone else there. So this is certainly something to take into account here. Me on the call with you, with your child, helping them go through that first session, just to give them that motivation. Now, I really see it as three options. You could take everything you've learned from this webinar, which is that arithmetic is the foundation of math, and that if you help your child master arithmetic, they're going to be able to unlock the rest of math. You can do it alone. And if you do choose to do that, I take my hat off to you. It's a huge time commitment, and I've seen parents do it, but you will have to go and find all the resources that are in line with what my 15 core modules are, and so that you can really help them make that progress. But if you really would like to do that, absolutely go ahead. You could hire a tutor. Now, Tutors, as we said, could cost between $40 and $100 a month. I personally charge more than that. Now, that really could cost you over the 3 months, which is like the 91 lessons, one lesson a day for the Arithmetic Mastery program. That could cost you anything from $3,640 up to $9,100, possibly even more. And there's no guarantee that a tutor is going to want to teach the way you tell them to teach because they'll have their own system. And they well are sometimes pretty hard to schedule as well, to be honest with you. There are some great tutors out there, but again, it's more of the cost of that. Or you could get everything we've spoken about with Arithmetic Mastery, a proven, tried and tested system that has helped children make enormous progress in math, specifically made for 8 to 9 year olds, getting from 5% to 78% in just 30 days, getting from 8% to 100% in just 57 days. Or children who are placed in the wrong year group by accident, ranking in the top 10% of their age in just 90 days. I've created this system because I know it works. I've tried it with so many parents, I've tried it with so many pupils, and I know that mastering arithmetic is the key to helping children succeed. This is the gap between the children that struggle in math and the children who need more support to get there. So that is your option today. Get Arithmetic Mastery, everything we spoke about with the one-to-one call, the actual course itself, all the assessments, all the support guides, all the parent community, the weekly challenges, everything within there for $997. And again, in case you missed the part about the guarantee, if you can complete the first 60 lessons, or your child can complete the first 60 lessons in 60 days, and you don't see measurable progress, I'll give you a full refund. And you can keep all of those bonuses within there as well. Now, this isn't obviously just about your child. I know you're here for your child, but you might be wondering, why am I trying to give away so much? It's because I really want to help transform education. And if enough parents and enough children see the value of going back to basics and focusing on those things that children are struggling with, the foundations, then it might actually make a real change across other schools as well. So, for $997 today, you can finally alleviate that guilt. You can feel like you're doing something to truly support your child. And you can help them make meaningful progress in 60 days or get your money back, no risk at all. You get the full 91 lesson system, teaches your child arithmetic, which is the foundation of math and allows them to make progress. You get the one-to-one call with me to talk through any worries that you might have. Sometimes parents just want an ear, and I can be that ear. The behavior guide to help you manage routines at home and maybe just learn a little bit more about your child's behavior. The trackers, the assessments, the community, the bonuses, the rewards, all these things to keep your child motivated and give you that sense of extra support throughout all of your time of doing Arithmetic Mastery 2.0. That is valued at $3,482 when I combine all of it together. But today you can get it for just $997. And as well, the first 10 buyers today get the preliminary assessment, the very first part of Arithmetic Mastery 2.0, delivered by me for your child via video call. So here it is for you. Help your child have that same transformation that Elgin did. Help your child have that same transformation that Christopher and Casey and Adam did. Going from struggling to believing in themselves. No longer using the words stupid, using the words dumb, feeling like they're truly capable, seeing challenges in math as a positive thing and not something that they need to be worried about. And give yourself that moment of alleviating the worry, knowing that you've finally set them on the right path. This isn't something you need to worry about anymore when they're 14, 15, 16, when they're getting ready to go to college, and go to university, still struggling in math. This is the time to make that change. So go to the link inside the chat box just now and get hold of Arithmetic Mastery 2.0, the full package worth $3,482 for just $997 today. Thank you very much for coming.